Okay, guys, hello and welcome to the Amazing Showdown. It is Tuesday at high noon, and we're going to dive into some more super great Amazon advertising strategies today. This is going to be our third session in our Rush to Riches sequence. So the Rush for Riches sequence is all about cutting through the crowds on Amazon. It's the first 4 classes in the sponsored showdown. So today's class is all about market share. It's a super important part of your strategy, and I think it's a strategy that most people overlook. And it really is essential if you're trying to look at how you're going to scale your campaigns over time. You really want to have a solid grasp on market share. This is a Black Hills Gold Rush, Deadwood, 1876. This is just a series of photographs from when everybody kind of descended on Deadwood for the opportunity of the gold rush. And you can see there are a lot of men in this photograph. In fact, during the gold rush days, there were 100 men to every 1 woman in any gold rush town from San Francisco all the way to the Black Hills. Which made the most lucrative business? Brothels, right? And saloons. That's where all the money was at. And Dora Dufresne was the leading madam in the gold rush and really the leading businesswoman of the time. So she pretty much single-handedly ran the entire business in the Black Hills, and she was super strategic and took market. She didn't just think about one operation or one organization. She literally moved wherever the gold moved. So whenever there was more gold discovered, she would open up another operation and take that market as well. So let's talk a little bit about, really on Amazon, we can't do absolute market share. We don't really have to do anything absolute on Amazon because we're just trying to get in there and take as many sales as we can and as much percentage of the category as we can. So the one thing I want to cover about market share as we start this journey is that you want to be thinking more about what are the best sellers, who is capturing the most sales in your category, and not your big broad category, because that's where market share is a bit too broad for you to focus on in Amazon, right? You're just trying to get your share of the distribution channel for your products and your niche products, right? So what you're really looking at here is who is selling in the subcategory that you are ranked in, the subcategory that's absolutely defines your product, that is most relevant to your product. That is going to be where you're looking at market share. So you're definitely looking at more category share on Amazon than you are market share. And we should really call it category share, but in the world of business, it is market share. So we're going to go through like a normal strategy of capturing market share and then kind of drill it down to category share. So the first thing you can see here is this is going to be the best selling products in women's jeans. These are the skinny jeans that we talked about last week in our keyword research module. And you can see here when you look at this, good. Okay, good. It sounds like audio is clear, and that's super good to know. So you can see when you look at this that if you're trying to gauge market share in your category, right? If you're trying to look at market share, the one thing that you can do is you can look at the best seller in your subcategory and determine how much market share they have of the total, which I'm going to show you how to do here in this session. But that's the very best way to do it. If you have a newer product or you're just kind of entering and trying to penetrate a market or category, the best way to kind of determine who or what percentage of market share is possible is to look at that best seller in your subcategory. And I think that when you do that, that's going to be every category is going to be different. Every market's going to be different, and sales velocity is going to be different across the entire Amazon ecosystem. So if you're looking for pure percentages, you're not going to find those. Some markets like razors, the most you could get is 7%. And then other markets like mattresses, you might take 40%. So it's going to be different depending on what you sell. So the best way for you to calculate your percentage is to look at that best seller in your subcategory and kind of gauge that as a percentage point that you can strive for. So that when we look at market share, we just look at 2 simple metrics. It's going to be a very broad calculation. And as we get further into this session, you're going to understand why broad is so important with Amazon. So it's a very broad kind of approach that we're going to take. We're going to take the category best sellers, not all sellers, the category best sellers, and we're going to total those up to get the market value or the category value. Now, keep in mind, it's a very broad sort of approach, which is the best way to do it because you just want to get like a pulse on one, what is the sales potential in your category? And two, where does your product currently stand so that you can measure the impact of your advertising? So here is going to be the best sellers in women's jeans. We saw number one is the Levi's product that we just looked at as the best seller, but then you're going to see there's about 50 additional best sellers in this category. So we would want to look at their sales. Again, I'm just going into women's jeans and I'm only going to look at the sales velocity of the very best sellers. Now, keep in mind that each product ASIN has child ASINs, so there's going to be additional product sales. So we can't really look at it as like a whole market because that would take far too much calculation. It wouldn't be worth our time. So just to get a solid pulse of potential in the market, we're looking at the highest selling ASINs across our subcategory. And from there, you're going to take your main seed keywords. So if it's women's jeans, you're going to take women's jeans through Amazon as well, because that's going to show you all of the organic ranked products. So then when you're looking at both bestseller and organic rank, you'll get a full picture of velocity. If you pull the 50 best-selling products in both places, you'll have some overlap, and then you're going to end up with a true kind of idea of the best-selling products in your category and how much sales potential that is. And most of the tools like Helium 10, Jungle Scout, Viral Launch, they'll give you that data. It's going to be a 30-day window. Of course, it's not perfect, but you don't need perfect data to make estimates, and you certainly don't need perfect data to start getting an understanding of the sales potential of your product. So, how do you measure your market share? So the first thing we're going to do is I'm using the Helium 10 Chrome browser extension, and I've gone ahead and I've downloaded the top 50 best sellers like I just showed you in the women's jeans category. So I've got all 50 of them, and this looks to be about $3,700,000 in revenue. Then I've gone into the same tool, the Helium 10 ASIN X-ray tool that will allow me to pull sales velocity across products, and I've taken and I've compiled everybody that has organic rank. Now, when you compile the top 50 organic placed products and you compile the top 50 best-selling products, you can remove the duplicates from your total list, and you're going to end up with the average market sales potential in your category. Very simple calculation because you really need to keep it simple so you can just get this done quick and get a clear understanding of sales potential. This is really important that you do this in your subcategory for any product that you're selling, and especially if you're doing product research, which we're going to cover in a bonus session in the 4th or 5th week. You really need to be thinking about that in week 5. When you're doing product research, you want to be looking at the revenue potential of a category, because I'm telling you, you can work so hard in a niche category and the sales potential when divvied up is not that promising. So that's one of the most important things about this lesson. Outside of using it for your advertising measurement, you really need to use it for product selection as you expand your catalog of products, and you need to use this metric as you look at potential products. So the market leader has the highest percentage of sales revenue in a category. So we're definitely going to go ahead and take that market leader, like I showed you, the number one seller in women's jeans, and we're going to look at what percentage they have of total sales. So looking at the jeans example that we just went through, if the market, after all duplicates, was removed from my best seller and my organic rank 50-50, if I have only the original best-selling products single in a list and I total it up, and there's, let's just say, 4.5 million in sales, I'm going to look at what percentage from the tool that number one best-selling ASIN has against the total market. You want to combine the estimated sales for the best-selling products in your category. You want to determine what percentage of dollar market share. This is really like a broad category share type equation. And you want to determine what percentage of dollar market share your product is capturing. And what that means are what are the dollar sales amount in your subcategory and your product currently, how much of that is it capturing? How much of that dollar value that's potential does your product currently have? You want to use market share to measure the impact of advertising on your business because without question, advertising is a standalone strategy and an aggressive strategy for customer acquisition and capturing market share. It's the thing that it does best. It's the reason the leading brands use it. It is a very aggressive, successful tactic for gaining more market share, especially in a closed ecosystem like Amazon. You want to calculate your percentage of market share over time to track your business growth. That's going to be an important metric. I would suggest doing it every quarter because you need 90-day initiatives. It takes time for your new initiatives to roll into traffic, especially when I show you some numbers here. The main thing you want to be looking at, though, is over time, quarter over quarter. How much market share did you have in quarter one? How much market share do you have in quarter two? Quarter three, quarter four, then year over year, right? It's something you want to track every single quarter because it really will demonstrate to you if your investment in advertising is really paying off to grow your business. Now, market share is not the end all be all, and that's going to be the main thing. Normally, increased market share also, like 90 or 80% of the time, is going to result in increased revenue and profits. But you want to make sure that is the case. So, winning market share by itself is not nearly as valuable as winning market share with increased revenue and increased profits, right? So all three of these things are what are going to constitute your business growth, not just market share alone. So you want to be measuring all three, market share, revenue, and profit, to get a clear picture of how your investment is giving you return in advertising. The main thing you want to be thinking in mind as you're looking at a category leader, you're going to notice two qualifications. I've had a lot of people ask me about selecting competitors and determining who are our most fiercest competitors. Like we reviewed in class 1, your fiercest competitors have the highest sales in your subcategory and they have the highest rank in your subcategory. It's a clear combination. So you definitely want to be looking at both sales velocity and rank. And when I say rank, I mean both the bestseller rank and organic rank so that you can get a good picture of how the big picture is coming together. So I would call it on Amazon category share, where we're looking at market share in the bigger business world, where you would go, if we were doing true market share for women's jeans, we would be looking at a huge picture of data. We'd be looking at women's jeans in the retail sector, women's jeans in e-commerce, women's jeans on Amazon. We'd be looking at a big kind of market picture, and you don't need to do that to determine your percentage on Amazon alone. So what you're really looking at is your percentage of subcategory share, the category that your product is ranked in. Where are you ranked at? How much percentage of that category's sales are you capturing? So percentage of category share is calculated simply by going into your business center, looking at your last 30 days product sales, pulling down the numbers in those two quick swipes that I just showed you in the Helium 10 browser extension, and looking at the top 50 bestsellers in your subcategory, and then looking at the top 50 organic ranked players in your category, and then adding those together, removing duplicates, and ending up with the category sales, and then going ahead and dividing your product sales out of the business center by the category sales. And if your product is actually listed ASIN-wise in the tool like Helium 10, that's actually going to be a better metric for you to divide it that way versus true product sales. You could do it either way. Again, you're just trying to get a ballpark there. And if you're trying to figure out, okay, so in my category, how do I know what I should be shooting for, or what is even possible here? Because again, every category is different. I mean, someone like Dollar Shave Club only took 7% of men's razors and maybe 12 at their peak. So, I mean, that's not a lot, you know what I mean? But that 7% resulted in $1 billion acquisition. But at the same time, every category is completely different. Some categories like soda are completely dominated by players like Coca-Cola. And so it just kind of just depends on what category you're in, and you need to look. It's going to vary from home to grocery to beauty to health. It's all different. But if you want to get a metric for your particular category, I suggest you take that number one bestseller in the bestseller rank, and then go ahead and in your subcategory and calculate what their percentage is based on what the tool reveals to get an idea of what percentage is maximum. And then you can kind of work from your current market share to their market share and kind of, hit some good sales goals. Now, once you have an idea of where you're going and what's available in the market, and then now the idea is you got to capture it, right? We're not here just to look at the market, but we do want to have a clear pulse of what's happening in the market. We don't want to come in kind of blind to, one, the potential sales and make sure there are potential sales before we invest in a market. And then two, we don't want to be settling. And I've seen clients do this before we really advertise at scale, talking about knowing how much money is in that safe. You do not want to be settling for less sales velocity than you can acquire. A lot of people are really happy. The Amazon numbers are so big that a lot of people get very kind of complacent, thinking that they're doing well by capturing, 60, 80, maybe 120,000 a month, when those same products can be scaled to millions of dollars per month. So it's a very tricky equation. You definitely want to be knowing that Amazon is a deep pool, and there's a lot going on there. So by calculating the market share of your fiercest competitor, calculating your own market share, you're not going to leave yourself short, because you're going to really have an understanding of either the money you're leaving on the table or the money that is on the table in the first place. All right, so this is from within one of my campaigns. Of course, I am the category leader here. In my campaigns, for all my clients, I am category leader. So in this one, being the category leader, the one thing you want to be paying attention to is the fact that you have a tremendous amount of impressions. This is a 30-day impression window. You can see over 30 days on Amazon, and this is in a very niche category. 30 days on Amazon, I've gone ahead and generated over 1 million impressions. So for those of you guys that are kind of new to advertising, impressions simply indicates how often the ad is viewed on the Amazon platform. So every time someone loads a page on Amazon and my ad is displayed to them, that is counted as an impression. Every time they click on my ad and go to my product page, that is counted as a click. So the difference between impressions and clicks is vast and very important in Amazon, because you're doing branding and you're also doing product display. It's almost like end caps in a grocery store or any other merchandising situation. The products on the end caps get prominent. Why? They get prominent placement because they're going to drive more sales in those positions. It's no joke that in any kind of merchandising situation, the leading brands fight for end cap visibility. So the more impressions that you get on Amazon, it's like end cap visibility. You're at the front of every aisle. You're at the front of every search. You're at the front of every category. So it's very important that you pay attention to those impressions, because they're insanely valuable, because not only does that impression mean it's going to show your ad, it means it's going to show your product image, your branding label, and everything else that goes along with that. So it's so important for your strategy. And the beautiful part about sponsored products advertising is you don't pay for impressions. You only pay when someone clicks and visits your page. So all those impressions are free. And as you can see, I got 1 million impressions and I only paid for about 19,000 clicks. So in the Amazon world, CTR is certainly not the same as other platforms, because you want those impressions and you want those clicks. But if you get less clicks but you still get a ton of impressions, it's super valuable in Amazon. So when I look at this, the game is about impression share. So when I say search share, I'm talking about how many impressions you're capturing in the market. And the reason I say that is because when people are searching, there's an available amount of impressions, which means there's so many possible potential advertising views that you can take. And the more of those you take, the more market you're going to take, guaranteed. So your impression share in your campaigns is how you, and there's no metric for the share, but you can watch your impressions over time, and you are looking and you are striving for obviously performance metrics, but you are also striving for increased impressions all the time. It is without question one of the most important parts of your strategy. And this is why when we get into keyword research and people ask me questions about, apostrophes and plural versions, and I try not to get too granular. I try not to go too deep. I'm staying wide, and people really love to go deep. It's when you see the numbers I'm about to show you, you're going to understand that it's not about depth. It's about width. It's about going broad on Amazon and making this broad traffic convert. It is a very different strategy than most PPC platforms. So when we look at this, we have increased impressions. And just so you guys know strategically, as we go into class 5 and we're into Act 2, which is about our campaign structure, just so that I can clarify, my top impressions at 393,000 are coming out of my scale group. That is the place that I mine my magic keywords. I've got 502 keywords working for me in that group. and they are 2+ sales or they wouldn't be in there. So I've got 502 keywords that have proven demand in the long tail for me, and I've gone ahead and generated a ton of impressions out of those at a lower CTR. Then if you go in the next category, which is blurred out to protect privacy, you're going to be seeing that those are going to be competitors' keywords, which I teach you guys all the time in the Train Robber series. You've got to get on those pages. So my competitors' keywords are generating another additional 347,000 impressions for me, ad views on product pages, right? Targeted just to product pages. That's another 347,000 impressions. And look at the clicks. Clicks are pretty equal on these. Again, fairly low CTR because I'm, in the category and I'm on competitors. I'm not going to get the same click-through rate. But then the next 3 ad groups running from 74,348 down to 72,336, 55,496. Those 3 groups are all single keyword broad or phrase match. And they're generating the majority of my impressions. But look what happens to my CTR in those beautiful little groups. I've got a 3% CTR, I've got a 2.55, and I've got a 4%. Now it's the same quality of keyword as I'm running in scale. It's one of my highest, most relevant terms. But because I've separated it into its own group, and I've separated it by broad and phrase match, and I mine continually, I've got a really nice CTR on those. So the big benefit, more clicks, more views on your product page, more sales. So you definitely need to capture those higher CTRs. And I found the best way to boost CTRs on Amazon is through single keyword ad groups based on the keywords that are most important to your product. So the game is impressions. So let's just have a look at these impressions because it's so important. Okay, so these are the real stats from last month, and these are going to be something that I think everybody needs to take note on because most people just don't get this. Okay, I have a manual and an auto campaign for the same product, right? In my manual campaign, I've received 235,000 impressions in top of search. That means when you go to like I've told you guys from step 1, you got to get ranked in that top position. Top of search. It's important enough that Amazon has a metric for it, right? So top of search on Amazon, I'm ranked. I've ended up from my top of search, and I have every single one of those keywords top of search. Yet I'm still only generating about 235,000 impressions, which is ad views. And from that, I've converted 84% of the sales in my manual campaign. Now that looks really powerful. You would say, geez, why would you do anything but keywords? Why would you just do top of search? Wrong, 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 wrong. So if you look down, you're going to see other on Amazon. These are other placements, product pages, places that aren't at the top of search, just random kind of remnant wherever Amazon's willing to put me traffic. 972,000 views. And those are product views, right? They don't have to go to my page. They see my product in the image. It's an image ad. All Amazon advertising is image ads. They see my brand name. They see my brand logo. They see my product pictures. 972,000 times from a manual campaign. It only resulted in 767 sales though. So you can see that those views don't result in a ton of sales, but it's those 972,000 views that power my conversion rate in the top row. So my top of search sales are converted as a result of the impressions I'm gaining across the entire platform. So this is why whether you use a plural or a misspelling or you use it upside down or you use exact match, that's why it's not really that important because you need to gain 972,000 additional views, right? Because that's free. So I don't pay for those impressions. And so these two things work together. It's very important that you realize that they're not isolated. If I was only doing exact match and bidding for top of search and I was focused on these granular little keywords, my scale group, I would be struggling because I wouldn't have the overall visibility in the category to drive those sales home at a profitable ACoS. So again, you can really see here that my conversion rate is higher in search and that I get all the sales out of search, but do not think that those are coming naturally. There's no way that just 235,000 people could see my product and I'm going to convert like clockwork on that. It's because more than 1,200,000 people saw my product across my category, and then they came back to search and chose to buy my product because I am the category leader. So the same thing is going on with auto. Total reverse. We're going to talk about search and placement. We're going to talk about auto and manual in extensive detail in Act 2. It's all about the campaign build. So when we look at this, our auto campaigns are structured differently. Our auto campaign on Amazon other placements is generating 6,600,000 impressions. So that's a lot of like good visibility in my category. Thank you, Amazon. And it didn't generate a ton of clicks. I only paid for about 9,000 of those 6 million views. So I think that looks nice. And then I'm going to come over here to the top of search on Amazon. Very little top of search coming out of auto. I got a little bit of it, but as you can see, if you're trying to really maximize search visibility, which is a big part of the game, if you're trying to maximize search visibility, auto is not the way to go. Auto is fairly useless. It's even as a mining tool, it's fairly useless. You need to mine out of manual. You need to focus your search strategy in manual. You want to focus your placement or other targets on Amazon out of auto. So that's going to be your big takeaway here. And I think if there's one thing that I tell you all the time about advertising is it's an 80-20 game. I'm certainly not the only one that thinks that in the world of advertising leadership. Most people that are advertising experts have seen 80-20 enough that we know it's true. So you can see in these numbers, it's almost perfect, right? It's just about there. The percentage of sales out of search is 84%, and the percentage of impressions out of display is about 80%, right? So 80% of my visibility is coming on those product pages, 80% of my sales are being clocked in search. You must do both. Okay, so to summarize that, you're going to find the majority of your visibility is going to come out of other placements. Whether you capture them in auto or manual, you want those guys. The majority of your conversions are going to come out of search. So this is why you can't do one strategy or the other. You cannot be over there like just saying you're going to do exact match and kind of covet like crazy your exact match keywords and focus on conversions only. If you do that, you're going to miss the game. You're certainly going to miss the market. You might get some sales here and there, but you aren't taking a market with that strategy on Amazon. So you want to maximize available impressions for your highest converting keywords. That's the name of the game. Keywords that are in your search term report, keywords that show sales, keywords that I've separated into singles like I showed you in this first screenshot. It's all about maximizing those impressions on your highest converting keywords all the time. Next, your manual campaigns are going to display on both product pages, other random placements, and at the top of search. Just because you're doing a manual campaign doesn't mean it's just people clicking the keyword once and seeing you in the search results. As you saw, the majority of sales happen there, but not the majority of visibility, which means most of the shopping is not happening in search, as we know. You want to download a placement report. So you want to see the data in your campaigns. What I just showed you, simple, just segment out. You can download a placement report to track sales performance by placement. We do it regular. You want to keep track of it. 80-20 is definitely going to apply as you start scaling especially. Focus on brand awareness and keyword expansion to increase sales, right? So I'm not just focused on expanding my keywords. I'm focused on taking those good converting keywords out of my search term reports and giving that scale group some velocity. I'm focused on taking as much of my competitors' sales as I possibly can. And then third, though, I'm just focused on getting broad impression share across the category so that I can capture category leadership. And I have done this strategy on multiple products. I have come from not category leader to becoming category leader rapidly through advertising, and I've done it on multiple products. So at this point, it's definitely one of those things that if you don't focus on that brand awareness, if you don't focus on those impressions and that visibility and your kind of reach across the entire path to purchase, you're just not going to win that game, because I've won it, and I'm telling you, that's the only way I've won it. So calculate the percentage of sessions that are attributed to your advertising. This is another nice way for you to start to look at your advertising investment. So keep this in mind, just to summarize. Your impressions, right? How many impressions you're seeing across the entire Amazon ecosystem, the entire Amazon marketplace, with your position is what works. So you have these amazing impressions that are coming all over auto and they're coming out of manual, but the sales are powered by the ad rank and the position in search. If you get all those impressions, but your most important keywords are not ranked at the top of search, nothing's going to happen because you saw that 80% of sales are going to happen from top of search. So you absolutely have to do both to get maximum sales conversions. Now, how do you improve your impression share? If you want to see more impressions in your campaigns, there's only 3 ways to do it, and they all work. You need to increase your ad rank, right? You need to make sure that you increase your position in the search results through aggressive max CPC bidding. The higher the bid, the more likely you're going to get more impressions. The higher the bid, the more likely you're going to show up in prominent placements in those other categories, right? So max CPC, whatever you can endure on the max CPC to break even with your profit margins and your goals, whatever you can endure on max CPC, keep pushing until you get a break even ACoS. And then you want to make sure your ad rank is winning, checking it manually. You want to make sure your max CPC is set high so that you can compete for those impressions and that share. And then you want to be improving your click-through rate, right? Because more clicks result in more sales. And that is kind of the secret sauce of the single keyword ad groups. So you can do all 3 of those things. And I've taught all 3 of those things already up to this point. For those of you that have already implemented what we did in the preview webinars, I've had amazing testimonials, and thank you for writing me personally through email. I've had some amazing testimonials about results already. So you definitely want to go back to those free preview videos that we put together for this course, because they are like the top 3 things for each of these sessions, for each of these acts, right? One was really about how you're going to cut through the crowd, and then we talked about how to structure your campaign with those singles, and then the third free preview, we talked about max CPC and managing it. So you want to go back through those. You want to master those because those are going to be the foundation to winning impression share. High ad rank, good CPCs, bidding aggressively, and increasing your click-through rate through better campaign structure. So a little calculation that you want to be tracking in your reports as you track your advertising campaigns and you start to invest more in advertising with this course is you want to be looking at what percentage of your sessions are a result of advertising. Fairly simple formula. Your advertising clicks divided by your total sessions. So you just get into your Business Center reports, you look at total sessions for your overall entire account, and then you look at your advertising clicks from your advertising platform, from Seller Central and Sponsored Products. So look at your total advertising clicks versus your total sessions over the same period, and it's going to give you a really good understanding of how many of those sessions you're driving through advertising. And of course, you want to see those sessions, both sides, increasing. You want to see an increase in advertising clicks and an increase in total sessions, and then you know that you've powered this correctly. Okay, final step. We're going to dominate our category, which is awesome. And you know, dominating your category is all about keywords. So here, I'm running a report here that I really love. And of course, I love the Helium 10 tool, but I happen to find that this particular keyword report always reveals some gold. And for me, as you can see from my campaigns and the kind of velocity I drive, I do everything at scale. So for me, a single report is so valuable that I just run as much data as I can to get as much data as I can. So I use a tool called WordTree for this report. And it's a single purchase report. They're about $20 single. And if you have multiple products, you can buy this report for, I want to say they're like $15 to $17, depending on how many reports you buy at once. But we go ahead and buy these in bulk, and we use them across all of our client accounts. And I'm using them here today because I want to demonstrate to you the power of category keywords. So essentially what I love about this particular tool, and it's kind of a one-trick pony, you know, I'm going to use Helium 10 for everything else, but this tool has a few things I love in it that I can't quite let go of. And the main thing it does for me that I absolutely love with WordTree is I can take my ASIN. So I've taken my ASIN as the #1 best-selling Levi Strauss jeans. And then I've taken my top 10 competitors, which we reviewed in class 1. And we'll get a little bit of a review on that again here in case you want to get, brushed up on it. So I take my top 10 competitors. And keep in mind, those competitors are pulled from that exact same Helium 10 download that I showed you in the first of this class. I went ahead and I pulled my bestseller rank. I went ahead and pulled my organic search rank, and then I took those guys' sales velocity and I kind of made a combination of them. So I have my number one ranked products, I have my best selling products, and I have my highest sales velocity products. I consider those my most lethal competitors. They are fiercest. So I take the top 10, and also I want their keyword data. I want to understand exactly what's going on with those 10 competitors. And the thing that I like about WordTree is it allows me to overlap them. So I'm going to get one clean report. And if you select the competitors right, which is why we did this in class 1, if you select your competitors right, you're going to find that out of that clean report, it's going to give you the overlapping keywords that are driving this market. And I have to tell you that this report is golden in itself. It is such a great report. And let me show you how it works. So it gives you back a report that looks like this, right? This is a purchased report from WordTree. So the thing I love about this is it shows this relevancy score. And what I find most interesting about it, and of course I'm going to show you how I clean it in the next step, but the main thing about the relevancy score is it's spot on. It is so spot on. And I mean, everyone has their own formula. And I'm not saying other keyword tools don't reveal the same data in the same way. I just love this one because it does it like gold. And I get to go in and overlap all 10 competitors so I get a good market view, not just a single ASIN view. And I don't want to compile all the ASINs. I don't want to do them individually, right? I don't want to take each competitor and compile them because then I'm going to get that kind of, tunnel view we get. I want all the competitors that are really selling and really ranking, and I want to see all their keywords in one swipe. So I love this tool for this report. For me, it's worth $20 any day of the week. So I download it. And from here, I can look at the relevancy score. So the relevancy score, and this is what's magic about it. So I have my best-selling products, as you know, tons of products from my clients that are bestsellers in all my categories. And I have compared over and over my keywords out of the search term report. So like you see those like scale ad groups that I just showed you with all those impressions and sales. I put my best-selling keywords from my search term report up against these keywords, and it's almost always identical. I mean, there's always a little bit of variation, but at the end of the day, this relevancy score matches what sells. Without question. It's pretty magical. So I really love this. Now, of course, not everything we're going to talk about in a minute, not everything can be used for advertising, but I tend to put this as my overall strategy. This is where I kind of do the foundation for both my organic, which we'll cover a lot as we move into these sessions. My organic and my paid strategy hinge heavily on this report because it's so valuable, because it really gives me good market analysis. So when I look at this, the relevancy score almost always matches up to true sales data after I've tested these words. You know what I mean? So it's not as if they're giving me words and I'm saying, maybe. In the end, I match it up as I have more data than most people because I have best-selling products in like health and beauty and home and grocery, so I get to see all this stuff. So I look at this and these keywords are just spot on, but you have to sort it by relevance, right? So use their relevancy score. I'm not sure what secret sauce they put behind it, but it definitely works to demonstrate what keywords will drive sales in your category, and it will do it pretty well. So the next thing we have to talk about though is how these keywords are going to be used. So I go ahead and I purchase the report. I do it from my top 10 competitors, which I'm going to summarize here in a minute for you. And then I go in and I just download the $20 report and I sort it by relevancy, and it gives me this list. Okay, so now I have to take this list and make sense of it. So when I go to make sense of that list, this is just the top relevant. When you go ahead and translate this into a sheet, the relevancy score kind of turns into numbers, right? So my highest relevancy is what? The one that we already picked without this report, jeans for women. The category that we're already exploring today, jeans for women. So that's my most relevant keyword. Of course, we already knew that by just looking at Helium 10 and the magnet tool. So now I'm going to look, when you guys ask me about how I would bucket these, I take the keyword report from WordTree, and this is how I would look at those keywords. I would say, okay, jeans is going to be a browse keyword. It's so broad. I don't know when or if I'll ever be able to bid on it because it's 3 million searches a month, which means a lot of money and traffic that I may not have in my budget for any of my clients. So jeans is probably so broad that I'll never bid on it in advertising. I'm just going to try to win it organically through good advertising. Now, jeans for women, I'm going to aspire to hit that one as a good browse keyword. It's my main category keyword. It's going to be expensive with 5 million searches a month, but I'm going to try for it in a bit. And it's also my most relevant keyword. I can most likely convert it, but it's going to be expensive. So normally jeans for women could be a shop keyword because women is my key modifier there. But unfortunately, with that in mind, I just can't, but because it's a 5 million search volume keyword, I have to put it in browse. In this particular instance, because the keyword gets so much traffic, it just makes it general by default. Any keyword getting a 500,000 searches a month is a pretty broad keyword, right? So that's going to be a pretty big deal. That we're going to want to be working on there is kind of deciding where we go. Which ones are browse? Browse are my most general keywords. They're going to be most expensive for me, but give me a ton of category and market share. My next ones are shop. We know that I have skinny jeans. We know that that's what I'm selling. My number one shop keyword is skinny jeans for women. Now, here's what I love about that word tree report, the way it does this, because it overlaps all my best competitors and all the category leaders. And I can look at that and say, wow, here's some keywords that are modified that I hadn't thought of. Mid-tail keywords, which I love the mid-tail. So the mid-tail for me would be skinny, which we already had in shop from last week. But when I pull this report, I see, wow, people are also looking for high-waisted jeans and buying. That's the one thing about this report that's golden, is it is demonstrating sales. And I know other tools do it, but this one for me just is easy to read. So I've got high-waisted jeans. It has a 20 on the relevancy score, which is equal to skinny. And it's got great search volume, a little more than skinny. So I'm definitely going to think, oh, that could be a mid-tail keyword I could test. Maybe people looking for skinny are really just looking for high-waisted. Maybe that style is synonymous or equal, right? Or, has an overlap in it. Then they have stretchy jeans, right? People want some stretchy jeans. Skinny are pretty stretchy. I think if you're wearing skinny jeans, they better be stretchy, because all us ladies know you need a little stretch in the skinnies. So those seem to be a new keyword that I hadn't thought about, right? And then the next one is pull-on jeans. Now, I would have never thought of that, right? So the two that are most interesting to me are high-waisted and stretchy. And those are new mid-tail keywords that I could most likely dominate. Then I'm going to look over here where we go back again. And I love talking about this with you guys. Pants for women. Now, it's got a 21 on the relevancy score, but I'm going to tell you as an advertising expert that without question, not every woman looking for pants is looking for jeans. And certainly not every woman looking for pants is looking for skinny jeans, right? I mean, that's like a special, you got to have a certain frame. You got to have a certain desire to sit around in skinny jeans all day. You got to be going somewhere in those skinny jeans. I mean, I'm telling you, that's just not what the majority of the market's looking for. So I would say pants in an advertising world is just still way too broad. It's just too broad and too expensive. I'm not going to be able to convert it, and I'm not going to bid on it. Even with my skills, I'm not going after that keyword ever. So I put that in my organic keyword bucket because I know it's 21 on the relevance score, which means a lot of the sales coming out of jeans or those particular products are coming from like a downstream from pants. So rather than bid on it, I just kind of look at this and say, okay, I'm not going to bid on this, but I'm going to put it in my back-end search terms. You bet I am. Pants. I got pants. And I'm going to really track my organic rank on pants. I want to see where I'm showing up. So I'm going to use it in my organic strategy and try to win some market share organically on the word pants, but I'm in no way going to bid on it in advertising just because it's got too many searches, 900,000 a month. That's going to be a killer on the budget. And then more importantly, it's just, skinny jeans and pants are a world apart when it comes to keywords and intention. So the next thing I do is I look at my brand keywords because, of course, I'm advertising those Levi's jeans. So I look at those and I go ahead and say, okay, I've got Levi's jeans, Levi's women's jeans. I just get like the good keywords out of that list, and there was a ton. And then from there, I look at my competitors with the top volume, right? And top relevancy scores. So it looks like Lee Jeans is going to be a fierce competitor for me. It looks like Amanda Jeans and the NYDG are going to be, or DJ are going to be my next competitors, at least in search volume. So based on the competitive analysis I did with this report. So this is how I kind of look at a keyword list. And I find that I can get all this data out of the word tree report in a nice, concise fashion. And when you get that report, it's a lot of data to look at, but it is conclusive, it is accurate, and it is a detailed report that you can bring into these segments. You can determine your mid-tail, your shop keywords, which hands down or describe your product and they're in your title, your browse keywords, which is where all the shoppers are starting at, most likely the main category keywords. You can look at where you're going to need to rank organically, even if you can't bid on it in advertising, brand keywords, and then competitors. So you want to select your top 10 competitors with the highest percentage of market share. You want to determine the keywords that drive the highest number of sales in the market. I have found that if you sort by relevance out of a word tree report at this time in history with your top 10 competitors, you will without question get the keywords that drive the highest number of sales. And I've matched it up against actual sales data at scale. Relevance is the key metric to measure when selecting your keywords to scale. Relevance. Create both an organic and paid strategy for keywords that drive sales. Unfortunately, just because it's a great keyword, sometimes you got to take your great keywords and really fight for organic rank and use organic ranking strategy on those keywords, because organic and paid work together. This is one solid marketplace, and Amazon, they power each other. So never neglect your organic strategy from your paid strategy. They're separate strategies. They both deserve attention, just like SEO and PPC both deserve attention on Google. You can't neglect one and win on the other. So you need to pay attention to both. Back-end search terms is a really actionable thing that we'll do a lot of in these classes. We get into section 2, but keep in mind that even that, there's other things you can do. Anything you have in your wheelhouse to drive organic rank, you want to be doing it because you really want to integrate your organic and paid strategy, and you're going to find that some keywords just don't make sense to advertise on, especially when they get into the hundreds of thousands in search volume. Some of those keywords I have to forego in some of my markets. I have markets in home that I am so aggressive and I still will forego. I will concede some really crucial keywords because they're just too high volume and they're going to cost too much money, and I'm not going to be able to get the sales increases that I want for those keywords, like pants for women, right? So you got to do both to really make it work. Continually add new single keyword ad groups to increase sales velocity. So when I showed you those mid-tail keywords in that report that I segmented out, you bet I'm going to test those as singles. They've got plenty of search volume. I'm going to test high waist jeans because I know I got skinny, so I need some more queries on that. I'm going to test the high waisted jeans as both broad and phrase immediately in single ad groups if I have budget for it. So how do you select those top 10 competitors? Well, we did the whole session in class 1, but just to simplify it for you guys, grab your competitors out of the bestseller rank, 1 through 50, using the Helium 10 browser tool. Grab your competitors that are ranked organically on your primary browse keyword or your primary modified keyword that you're going to be using for shop. Go ahead and really the keyword should match up to the subcategory title. Use your category keywords to determine who's selling in the category. And then sales velocity. Get all that data in one place, all your ranked competitors from organic and bestseller, and then sort by sales velocity and pick those ones that are selling, because the ones that are selling have, 1, the most traffic potential for you to capture, and 2, they have the best market fit without question. If they have sales velocity, whatever they're doing is matching what the market wants because they're selling a lot of stuff. So the main advantage of market leadership is lower ad costs. And don't confuse lower ad costs with lower advertising spend. They're not the same thing. As you grab more market share, your advertising spend will go up, but your profitability will also go up, and your cost per acquisition will go down, and your A cost will go down. So your lower ad cost is not about spend as much as that you will pay less for the same sales over time, not more. So if anything, you'll be staying consistent in a market that's totally inflated. So if you have solid ads like I do, and you put your ads together now based on this course, your market, the advertising platform, will only inflate over time. Costs are going to go up. It's going to get far harder to rank and far more expensive for new players. And if you stay ranked, like I showed you in the early sessions, you're going to keep your stuff the same. Your pricing is going to be even a little lower, if not the same. You will not be subject to increased market rates. So as you establish more leadership and you drive more sales, leadership is for your customer, sales is for the algorithm, and when you combine those two things, you get a much lower ad cost over time. So even as advertising cost goes up, yours does not. So advertising sales. Now, how another good little formula that you're going to want to calculate to kind of see how your investment is turning out is you want to be looking at your advertising sales and your total sales. So what percentage of sales is advertising driving? And I can tell you that 80% of your sales are going to come above the fold. That's just kind of search engine 101. All your top of search is 80%. It's going to be above the fold. So 80% of your sales will come above the fold, like I showed you in my stats. So with that in mind, advertising sales are golden if you're not ranked. If you're not ranked in the number 1 position, or 2 or 3, if you're not in the top 3 organic positions, those ad placements are going to transform your business. They're going to drive a ton of sales for you. And even though it may seem like a high percentage, you really have to look at it as the less of 2 evils. Either you're not going to be ranked at all, right? If you forego those top placements, you just will get 20% of the traffic and divide it among hundreds of competitors, or you're going to need those top placements to win. So regardless of how you look at it, 80% of your sales are coming out of the first page of search, coming above the fold. So whether you take those sales organically or paid, both are a win. But the nice thing about paid advertising is you can take them while you still work on your organic strategy. So we know that Amazon can be awful mean, and we know that it is competitive, and we know it's a lot of work. But at the same time, capturing market share has long-term benefits that are going to stay with you for many, many more years, and it has all sorts of things it will do for your business. By capturing market share early and taking it for your product, you're going to, you're going to hedge off competitors. Competitors are going to differentiate. You're going to have less competitors come up head to head against you. 2, you're going to see a higher business value with higher market share. Without questions, investors, people looking at your business from a sales standpoint, without question are going to look at what market share you have and how rapidly you're growing it. So those things alone are so worth it. So you definitely want to be looking at market share as a strategy on Amazon. You could start just thinking about it really as category share and capturing your percentage of it. All right, so next week we're going to talk about bringing all this together into the final reports, like what you have at the end of the day. Where are your competitors? How are you targeting those? Who are your fiercest competitors? Where are your keywords? Which keywords are you going to start with? Which keywords are you going to fight for? Which keywords are you going to rank on? And then third and last is we're going to look at market share. What percentage are you going to take? What is your ideal market share goal? Where do you stand today? And who is standing in your way? So next week we're going to talk about pulling all these 3 strategies together into one good strategy that's going to be put into your advertising campaigns in week 5 as we start to go through search term reports and doing the campaign build outs.